Hi everyone, Heather Dean here, and I am so delighted to be speaking once again with one of my favorite people in the world, Toby Klein Greenwald. Hi, Toby.
Hi there.
So
The feeling is mutual.
thank you so much. We have a really, really special occasion to be speaking with you today, and especially because it's one of those reasons of abundance that you sold out some theater shows and you bring the theater show back to the stage. So for people who are not aware, who is Toby Klein Greenwald? She's the artistic director and co-founder of Raise Your Spirits Theater and the editor-in-chief of wholefamily.com. So Toby conducts and trains performers at the Nana Playback Theater, and in her spare time, wink wink, she is an award-winning journalist, lecturer, workshop presenter, writer, and editor. And the awards that you won recently are from the American Jewish Press Association, Rackhauer Awards for Excellence in Jewish Journalism. So congratulations on that. And also congratulations on your sold out show. Earlier this year, Toby presented a series of sold out shows of her most recent theater production, Rebecca, Mother of Two Dynasties. So let's see, due to popular demand, these will be coming back to the stage in various theaters around Israel, including Gush Etzion, Jerusalem, and Beit Shemesh. And for tickets, you can visit the website raiseyourspirits.org/tickets. Again, that's raiseyourspirits.org/tickets. Hello, Toby Klein Greenwald.
Hi there.
Okay, so let me know, first of all, what this is not your first musical, not your last. You've done so many productions. What inspired you to create a production about the Jewish matriarch Rebecca?
Okay, this was a really interesting story. It two events juxtaposed. One was that during the Parsha reading that included the story of Rivka, my husband looked up at the Shabbat table and he said, you know, Rivka was a very interesting character. And 2 days later, I was in my Matan She'er with Dr. Bryna Yocheved Levy, and she said to me, you know, Rivka was a very, very interesting person. And I thought, okay, I'm hearing this from my husband, I'm hearing it from Bryna, and my mother's name was Rivka. So these three things kind of juxtaposed to say, this is the time to write about her. And that was actually the kickoff. And the first song that I actually wrote was Here Am I, which is, this also, I learned about this midrash from Bryna, from Dr. Levy, that when Yitzchak and Rivka were married for 20 years and they didn't have children yet, he took her up to Mount Moriah, which was the location of Akedat Yitzchak, the sacrifice of Isaac, which thank God was not carried out. But his thinking was, if this is where I was even ready to be sacrificed, this is where we should pray to have a child. And it's a beautiful duet. And they pray there and she gets pregnant with twins.
For people who aren't familiar, so we have Isaac and Rebecca that are praying, but your entire stage productions involves many women and girls. So all the parts are played by women and girls.
Yes.
So first I want to talk about the fact that this is an outlet for creative artists and performers who are women and girls to be able to use their talents, express themselves in front of an audience, which you must hear time and time again is so important to these women and girls.
Yes. And I just want to add that about 2 years after I started working on it, I was joined by Tamar, who co-authored the show with me in the end, and give a shout out to Mitch Clyman, who composed and arranged the music, and some of the melodies were actually also written by Tamar.
Okay, All right, excellent, excellent. So, so just getting back to the idea of women and girls getting to perform on stage. So a lot of times when we talk about theater audiences that are comprised of women, and that all of the input comes from, all of it on stage anyway, from women and girls. So it must be very gratifying to be known, so well known, and to make such a contribution in that area.
Yes, yes. First of all, it's a tremendous thrill to see both of the women find their voice, and to see especially the young girls we have girls who've grown up in our theater and who are adults now because we've been on stage for 20 years. And I hear from them many, many times, these shows changed my life. And they've gone on, both the adult women and those who grew up, they go on to be involved in other theater groups, to produce, to direct, to act. They've put out CDs, and this gives me special nachas to see how we were a launching pad. In addition to what we do on our own, we were a launching pad to so many other projects.
That's right. I also want to talk about, just from your own perspective, bringing this to the stage. So from my own experience as a journalist and reporter, everything was short leads. My background is basically in news, and just getting things out in daily deadlines, maybe weekly deadlines. I've done one or two long form journalism pieces for magazines, and of course writing a book, which is a very long range, years long process. So when you're dealing with writing this production and other productions, you're really in it for a long time, years. These can be years in the making. So I'm wondering how that must feel to be so committed to these projects over the months and years, and still stay inspired and wanting to bring this to stage.
Okay, so first of all, when I write or co-write a show, we delve into the sources. We learn the Torah, what's called Pshat. We learn Midrash. We learn the commentaries. And we are always discovering new things. For example, Tamar, who co-authored this with me this time, both of us are graduates of the Michlala of Jerusalem College for Women, where we study Torah in the deepest and broadest way possible. And even we discovered new things and new ideas. And also in this particular show, we had a question that intrigued us. And we spent a lot of time trying to find the answer to that question.
What's the question?
And that question was, can there be reconciliation someday between the descendants of Yaakov and the descendants of Esav? They both come from Rebecca and Isaac. And of course, there's this terrible split between them. Can there someday be a reconciliation in the final redemption? And we found the answer after we found several commentators who gave us the answer. And I'm not going to give away the end of the show, so you'll have to come and see it. But that was, so what we look for is not just to present the story on stage. We look for deeper themes. And every song has its own story. For example, there's a song, the one song that was triple credited. I wrote the words, Tamar wrote the melody, and Mitch Clyman did the arrangement, is a song called Two Children, where Rebecca is putting her children to sleep at night, and she sings this heartfelt mother's song. How is it that I have these two children, Yaakov and Esav, and they're so different? And how do I raise them? How do I give them our values? And I've been told by many women, I get emotional when I tell the story, that they cry when they hear this song, because what mother has not asked herself, how do I raise children who are different? And I still want them to have my values. And so these themes intrigue us, and we're looking for answers to these things. It's not just here's the simple story and putting it on stage.
Right, right. I hear. What other themes should people, or do people usually come away with themes that you also had in mind when you were writing this? From Rebecca, from her perspective.
From Rebecca. Okay, she was a very independent thinker. She was a very strong person. She's the only story in the Torah where, because arranged marriages were the norm then, but she was actually asked, will you go with this man? And she sings, I will go. That's another one of our songs, I will go, I will go, I will go. And we see that as a metaphor to life. I will go, I will step up to the plate. I will do what needs to be done. And this is a message that comes through from her. And afterwards, her whole maneuvering about who really needs the correct the other blessing. And she was not a wallflower.
No.
She was a woman who was very independent. At the same time, she had great love and respect for her husband, Isaac, for Yitzchak, but she also knew her own mind, and it was important to her to do what she thought was right.
She changed the course of history, not just Jewish history. She changed the course of history.
Well, in her mind and in the mind of some commentators, she actually got it right. And we would say in Hebrew, she knew how to channel history in the right direction. And again, giving a little bit of a spoiler alert, Isaac sings at the end of his Song of the Blessings to Yaakov, to Jacob, this is the blessing that was always meant for you. Like the dime drops for him, he gets it. He gets it. And he realizes this really was the son who was supposed to get this blessing.
This blessing, right. So let's go back for a moment to the song, I Will Go. I will go, I will go. And you're writing this labor of love, you're writing this musical. And over the many months and years, and you're having your own behind the scenes drama going on. So this is something you don't hide behind. So I think, in fact, it would inspire people to know your own I will go story as you're putting the show together and keeping your life together.
Well, part of the show I wrote while I was going through chemotherapy for breast cancer. And there isn't a question in my mind that being involved in the writing of the show and saying, I will go, I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm sure that resonated with me personally. And we've had many women in our casts who have their own personal challenges. Sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's marital challenges, family challenges. They have children with special needs. They've gone through their own traumas. I think one of the blessings of all our shows is that women and girls also, we have girls who are dealing with social problems, learning disabilities, ADHD. We have everything in our cast. And I think that this gives them all inspiration to keep going.
Right. Now, when the show was in its first incarnation, before it was brought to stage in the winter spring of 2021, so it was undergoing its own challenge that the world was undergoing, and that was COVID lockdowns. How does a cast and crew of people rehearse and prepare a show for stage during that?
Okay, by the time we went up on stage on opening night, the message, the line we all kept saying to each other was, this is a miracle, because we did auditions by video. we did many rehearsals by Zoom, and anyone who's worked with Zoom and singing knows you can't sing simultaneously, you can't speak or sing simultaneously on Zoom. So our brilliant musical director, Elisheva Savir, came up with the idea of having the women record their song, their part of the song. We had harmonies, send it to her. She mixed it in her little home studio and played it for us at the next Zoom session. And we also, Tamar and I used to ask questions relating to the themes of each particular song. And you could ask, okay, singing, how about dancing? So we have a terrific choreographer, Ashira Allon, who would video herself doing dance steps, send it to the various dance groups, and then they would learn it together. And all of this was also, this whole project was put together also with my co-producer, Tammy Rubin, who is a pillar in this project and in all of our projects. And we would come up with all kinds of solutions. When we finally met each other live for the first time, we had masks on. So, but they didn't even all know each other because they weren't all old timers and Raise Your Spirits. There were new women there. So I'll never forget that first live meeting, socially distanced and masked, saying, hi, I'm this one, I'm this, and who are you? And it was phenomenal. And then we went through and then sometimes we could only have 10 in a room. Sometimes we could have more. Some rehearsals we did outside. We just said, we're not going to stop. I will go, we're going to make this happen. And then when the time finally came, we had to sandwich this in between a lockdown, a war, and the 3 weeks, the fast day of the 17th of Tammuz, which begins the 3 weeks when you can't perform music, etc. So we had that 2-week period that we managed to squeeze in 4 shows, and we said, okay, we've got to bring this back. So many women couldn't get tickets, and 4 shows, you want to do more. But it was an absolute miracle putting this together during COVID.
That's incredible. Incredible stories. Many things coming together like that. The other
I just want to add one more story to that.
Go ahead.
Our actresses were not just from Gush Etzion. We had a few from Jerusalem. We had one from Moshav Matityahu. Our lead, Sarah Zaire Weiner, who came from Moshav Matityahu. We had 2 actresses from Beit Shemesh. We had an actress from Beersheba, Gabi, who at when we had to go back into Zoom when there were rockets falling, she let us know, if you see me disappear from the screen, it's because I'm running with my children to a bomb shelter.
Right, Beersheba's in the south, and everything else is basically in the middle of the country. So, wow, amazing. The other thing I also want to convey is that another miracle of Raise Your Spirits Theater and this show and everything that you're doing is that this isn't necessarily self-funded at all. It's not as though it's something that has the backing the way your typical Broadway show has backing. How is it that you're able to get all this to stage, because it costs money to get with costumes, makeup, stages, everything.
So first of all, as anyone who works in the arts in Israel can say and knows, it's an ongoing struggle. This time we got a grant from the Matan El Foundation, which is very helpful. It didn't cover everything, but it covered some of it. We have several private donors who helped, and the cast themselves are volunteers. Only the directors, musical director, et cetera, only the professionals are paid modest salaries. And we just are always pounding the pavement, as they say, trying to raise money. And anyone who watches this and wants to be part of, who wants to help us, go to our website and to the donate page, because it definitely is an ongoing challenge.
Great. So we're going to repeat that information, that first of all, to get your tickets, grab them while you can for the show, go to raiseyourspirits.org/tickets. And I'm guessing that it follows go to the donate page, raiseyourspirits.org/donate. Is that the right, that's the right
I'm
address?
opening it now. Yes, that's what it
Okay.
goes to, /donate.
Good. So remember to head over to the donate page as well. I've headed there and I see that there's a field there that there's suggested donations, but you can also just donate the amount that you want to write in.
Every little bit helps. Sometimes I say, I know that when we have camels, we have girls who play camels in our show because Eliezer takes his camels to Rebecca's home. That's where he finds her. And not because of COVID, but because he wanted to add a costume element. We printed camel faces on masks, and they wear these camel masks. And at one point, and I figured out how much it cost, and I sent out a note. I don't remember now by heart if it was 50 shekel, 20 shekel, whatever it was. I sent out, for this amount of money, you can sponsor the camel masks. Like, I broke it down.
Right.
And when you break things down, then you see, okay, I know that there are groups that do that. They say, for this amount, you could sponsor the following costumes or the props or whatever. We also did something, we recycle a lot. Like, we have 20 years worth of costumes. So we have women who come to our shows who they say, oh my gosh, I recognize that from this show or from that show. And we've given it a different job this time. And regarding the scenery, we have beautiful scenery that we used when we did the show Judge Shofetet in Hebrew. But at the Begin Center, there wasn't a place to hang that scenery. So we had the digitalized versions from which the scenery was printed, and our Hebrew translator who projects, Michal Copenhagen, Yechieli Copenhagen, who translates, and she projects onto the screen the Hebrew translation. She made two versions of the show, one without the scenery because we had live scenery, one with the scenery included in the projection on their LED screen at the Begin Center. So when we look for solutions, and there were women who said, wow, that was so fantastic, you had LED scenery. And they don't know that we were doing that because we had no choice, because there was no place to hang scenery there. And but it's something that you discover a lot in theater. I'm sure you discover this a lot in life in general. Something that looks like a lemon, the lemonade that you make, it comes out really exciting and wonderful.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. I appreciate that. The thing that I want to end on is the ending feeling. When audience members come out of this show, there's probably all the emotions, right? What have you found that your audiences come away from this particular show, Rebecca, Mother of Two Dynasties?
They've told us that it was inspiring. Just remembering off the top of my head some comments, it was magical. They feel that it gave them, a lot of them say it gave them a new view of the story they never had before. Esav, for example, we show him in a much more human way. We show him, we don't make it simple. Yaakov good, Esav bad. I think of Animal Farm also, this good, this bad. It's Esav, the human side, the more positive side of Esav is also shown. And so they always say, one woman said, I'm going to go back and reread Sefer Bereshit. Like, there are things here I never thought about before. Now, in addition to that, in addition to them feeling inspired and the desire to learn more and opening their eyes and just enjoying the pleasure of the songs, the dances, the acting, we finish every show with the singing of Hatikva and Ani Ma'amin. And we started that because our second show 20 years ago fell on September 11th. We had made a decision to never cancel a show on the day, or a rehearsal even on the day of a terror attack. And we went ahead with it. We consulted with several rabbis. We went ahead with it. We opened the show by reading from the Psalms. And we've retained that custom, and we ended the show singing Hatikva and Ani Ma'amin.
Oh my God.
And women always get very emotional.
Of course.
Because they say, that kind of close of thing. And that decision that we made about going on was made at the time 20 years ago by the producer Sharon Katz, by the choreographer Arlene Chertoff, and myself as director, because we really put together the first show. And I remember those moments of tension, those hours of tension, because how do you deal with a terrible thing like this?
Right.
And I'm going to tell you something that almost nobody knows, and I hope it's okay that I'm using her name here. I peeked into the audience. I saw we had a full hall, and sitting in the audience was my dear friend Sherry Mandel, whose son had been murdered by terrorists. And even though we already knew almost for sure we were going to go on, I said, she came from Toccoa to see this show to raise her spirits. No way we aren't going on stage. Wow. And that was again just one more piece of the puzzle that
right. Was this during at the time of the actual attack, 9/11?
This was later. This was because we performed in the evening. Okay. We had just heard about it. There were women who came on buses. There were women who were already on their buses on the way to the show when they heard about the attack.
Wow.
And they came in, and so women told us afterwards that was one of the most inspiring shows they ever went to, because we also said Tehillim we gave out Tehillim to 400 women. So, I mean, they shared, but the whole audience said Tehillim together with the cast. The whole audience recited Psalms for the welfare of the people. And it was a very inspiring evening. And like I said, we kept those customs.
So the reason I ask is also because I mean, this rocked the whole country. Kobe and his school friend, were murdered at the same time, and this was still so fresh and raw. It still feels raw, actually, but I remember when it was a couple of decades ago, but still. So that's really something that she was there.
Yeah.
Sherry, if you're watching, thank you for everything you're doing for the Klal. And
I just want to say one more thing about that night. I gathered the cast together before the show, and I had just discovered literally a month earlier that I had relatives who died at Theresienstadt. Now, Theresienstadt was the place where they sent theater people, musicians, artists. And I said, for all I know, my relatives who died there might have been theater people. I said, they put on plays during the Shoah in Theresienstadt.
Yes.
I said, we're not in the Shoah, thank God, and we're going on. Yeah. And anyone who doesn't want to go on, that's fine. And they all said, we're going on stage.
Wow.
We are blessed with many generous donors, too many to mention, but I would like to give a shout out to our diamond donors, who were the most significant private donors for this particular show. Yudis and Menachem Spitz. Yudis is also a member of our board. I'd also like to thank the Community Center of Gush Etzion, who gave us rehearsal space for free and also gave us a generous discount on use of their venue.
It's always fantastic when organizations and individuals support the arts. Fantastic. Thank you for all your contributions to the arts, to journalism, Toby Klein Greenwald, to Klal Yisrael, Ad Mei V'Esrim. You should continue in all of your efforts and have nachas from your family.
Thank you. See you all at the show.